Hey everybody, Movie Review Next Door here, and I'm back with another review, and this time I saw oh, King of Killers. This film is directed by Kevin Grevioux, came out this year, 2023, is an action thriller, and it stars Alain Moussi, Maria Avgeropoulos, Georges St. Pierre, Kevin Grevioux, Stephen Dorff, Shannon Cook, and Frank Grillo. In this film, Garen is part of a group of international hitmen who are contracted to take out the most dangerous killer in the world, only to find out that they're the ones being hunted. So, what did I think of King of Killers? Well, to be honest, I went into this with not high expectations, but I was like, oh, there's someone directing this that's done stunts before, and it looks kind of colorful, and I like some of the cast. And I gotta say, I was disappointed. I didn't think it was a terrible movie. At the best, I think it's okay. It's got a decent concept, a decent premise. It's based on a comic book from Dark Storm. I don't know what that is. But the art style here kind of reminded me of Accident Man, which I do think Accident Man's a ton better movie than this. I think more movies should strive to have the action of Accident Man or other Jesse V. Johnson action films. But this film, given the cast here, I definitely was disappointed. I was let down. A lot of the actors on the poster don't have a ton to do. But let me get to the actors. Alain Moussi plays Marcus Garan. He's a hitman. He's been in quite a few films. I've seen a couple of the films he's been in. He was in Kill Order, which I will say I wouldn't consider that a movie. It really doesn't have the story of a movie. It feels more like just a reel for the effects, which the effects in it are pretty well done, and the stunts from the main actors, which I will say the stunts were really good. He was also in Nobody, which I love that movie to death. I think it's better than John Wick chapters 1 and 2, at least. I'm kind of split in between it and chapter 3. He was in Erased with Aaron Eckhart, which maybe I'll have to give that one another chance. But when I did see it, I wasn't huge on it. Um, but Alain Moussi is an actor that doesn't get a lot of love. He was in the Kickboxer trilogy, the Kickboxer Vengeance and Retaliation, and he's going to be in Armageddon. I think it's coming out this year. It, it's the trilogy of his character Kurt Sloan, and I don't mind him here. I think he does a pretty good job acting. He worked with the parts where he's with his family, his wife and daughter seemed pretty nice. They were some of the best parts of the movie acting wise. And yeah, he does some good moves when he's fighting, but there aren't a lot of fights in this film, and I'll get to that as one of my big issues of the film. But I liked him. Maria Avgeropoulos plays Ashokana. She's an MI6 hit woman, which doesn't really make sense. She doesn't have a British accent, so I don't know why the fuck they went with MI6. They could have just easily changed it to CIA because it never really comes into play in the grand scheme of things, so don't ask me. Maria Avgeropoulos is an actress that I've been like trying to look at more stuff that she's been in. Apparently, she's in Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I don't remember her being in it. I'll have to watch it again. I do want to watch that film anyway. Other films that I've seen her in, I saw her in Dead Rising Endgame, which I don't like that sequel. I think it is way worse than the first film. I think the first film is actually pretty alright. And she was in Tracers with Taylor Lautner, which I like that film. I do. I know a lot of people don't like Taylor Lautner, but I like the film. But she's not a bad actress. She doesn't do a bad job here. It's just that she's not given anything to do. She has one fight. Well, kinda two fight. The first fight, nothing really happens in it, and the second fight is really anticlimactic. And her character is just given nothing to do, and I was kind of looking forward to her being a badass because or at least doing something. And the way that this film pans out and the plot and everything kind of ruins the chances of any of these fights being any good. Um, Jacques St. Pierre plays Andre Lacroix. He's one of the random hitmen. He doesn't get much to do at all. He barely gets to act. Um, Shannon Cook plays Ren Hero. He's another one of the hitmen. I liked his style. I liked the whole silent but deadly, like he's quiet all the time, but he can be deadly type of thing. But again, he doesn't really get to show much of that off. Kevin Grievous, the director, plays Dyson Cord. I think he's supposed to be a priest hitman, but he- he's okay. Steven Dorff, Robert Zane, he's I guess the boss of Alain Moussy's character. He's barely in it. He's set up to come back in the sequel. If there is a sequel. I doubt there will be because of some of the reviews of this has been getting. And Frank Grillo as Jorg Drekos. Again, not given much to do. He's in the entire film. He pops up throughout, but it doesn't feel like he has too much of a character, and that's a big issue I have with this film. There's inevitably gonna be people who compare this to John Wick, which sucks. Because just the very fact that a action movie has Asian influences nowadays, it's going to be connected to John Wick for some retarded reason. And yeah, it's just really annoying hearing people just constantly go, "Oh, this is John Wick Light, Wish.com John Wick," or they say that it's ripping off John Wick, which this movie isn't ripping off John Wick. It has nothing to do with John Wick. It's based on a comic book. Get over yourself. Stop being a little child. John Wick is not original. I hate that I have to repeat this. John Wick has not an original bone in its fucking body. Um, but yeah, this film it's trying to be, I guess, a throwback to 90s martial arts films. It's all in one place for most of it. You get the setup and then you get action for most of the last bit of the film. And to be honest, a film like that can work. There's a film I really like called Message Man. Um, I can't remember who starred in it, but it was an Australian Indonesian co-production, I think, and most of the first 45 minutes were set up for the action, and then the last 45 minutes were mostly action and comedy. And I really liked Message Man. The kind of follow-up to it, The Spy Who, what was it? It was The Spy, it was the like James Bond parody movie that was kind of meh. But that one was disappointing. But yeah, the Message Man is how you do that right because the action for the most part is very, very, very well done. Some pretty decent CGI, and of course, people compared that to John Wick because people have become very unoriginal. They can't even say what's good or bad about the movie. They just say bargain basement John Wick. Oh, I'm so smart. Look how smart I am. I outsmarted the action movie. But my issues with this film have nothing to do with it being compared to John Wick because it's nothing like John Wick. Um, and even if it was, that doesn't make it a ripoff or it's not trying to copy it. It's trying to do kind of a battle royale type thing, but the issue with the premise comes in like where the premise becomes kind of null and void because you have all these people going to this certain place. One by one, they get to try to take down this ultimate killer, the king of killers. But this king of killers is using traps. Like he's got like a sonic wave trap. He's got these holograms that'll pop up. He'll do anything he can to kill these people. But then that's where the issue comes in with the story that wait a second. If this guy's the king of killers, the king of hitmen, which is what they actually mean other than killers, then why does he have to use all these traps when he's going one on one against these people? I don't understand how that works. Maybe somebody can explain it to me why it is fair, but I just don't really see it. Um, just kind of comes off like it's, unfair. It doesn't feel fair. And then later a character's like, what if four of us go after you at once? And then that happens, and then he also splits them up, which this film's fight scenes, I've heard some people say, you know what, the movie's not great, but the fight scenes are all right. The fight scenes are fine, they're okay, but the editing isn't the greatest, and I think that's all down to Kevin Grievous directing. It's not that this film looks cheap. I don't think the film looks cheap other than the when the CGI is on screen. There is some really bad CGI blood at times. There's some really bad CGI smoke at the end. It's really bad. Like there's even a part where they use a filter on the camera to make it look like it's snowing, and I'm like, you do know that snow machines exist, right? That would look so much better. Like you don't even have to show the ground and put like fake snow on the ground. All you have to do is have the character walk in front of the camera, have the snow machine going in front of the camera, and it'll look so much better. Or maybe just sprinkle some snow on the car that's behind him. Like, there are ways around these things, and this film feels like it was kind of chopped together. Because most of the film's events take place in kind of an abandoned apartment building complex, which is, I'm guessing, is exactly what the set is, an apartment building complex that they'd allow them to shoot stuff in. But that makes it even weirder that they had to use like CG smoke that looks really, really, really bad and took me out of the movie multiple times whenever there was CG on screen. There are CG explosions or CG like somebody uses a grenade and there's a CG puff of smoke that comes out of it and it just looks really, really bad. And it's in movies like this where I wish they would like use practical effects because practical effects are always cheaper than CGI. They are. It's just that you have to deal with cleaning up the mess. And I understand that you might not want to use squibs all the time, but the CG blood in this just takes me out of all of the fights. And I'm not just saying that because it's a low budget film. I don't know what the budget of this film was. I don't need to. I understand that it's a low budget film and that you can't exactly do all these things with it. If having a lot of these cast members who barely are in the film to do anything is why you can't afford practical effects or can't afford better CG, maybe don't have those people in the film. I understand you have to have names sometimes to get a film funding, but Kevin Grievous, from my understanding, this is like kind of a passion project for him. So my guess is that he wouldn't have to have all of these people in it. But I just kind of wish they'd pay the CG artists a bit better, maybe get them to do a little bit better work, something like that. But yeah, this film is a disappointment in that regard. A lot of the fights are very one-sided, and it kind of reminded me of a Steven Seagal movie for a little bit. Whenever the King of Killers went against anybody, it was like, oh yeah, pretty obvious who was gonna die, pretty obvious who was gonna win. There isn't that much tension. It's supposed to be an action thriller, but it's just not. There's no tension really because you know exactly who's gonna die at what point, who's going to win the fights at what point, and this whole movie is basically just setting up a sequel. Which I mean, the sequel sounds like it'll be a more straightforward action movie. Maybe I'll check it out, but there's not really much to recommend here for me. Again, even if you're coming here for the fights aren't that much either. Um, and I understand that not everybody. I understand that a lot of action movies like this, it's not like, oh, they're gonna kill off the main character halfway through the movie, so that's how they have tension is by doing unexpected things. But I'm not a big fan of that either, because a lot of the times it's like, oh, you've already set up a character that I care about and they're dead, and now there's no one I care about. If you if you made a movie like this and set up all of the characters properly, like let us know about their backgrounds and all that, so that I gave a shit about all of them, so that there would actually be like, I don't know, some tension with who wins and who loses, then maybe I'd like that. That could be cool. but a lot of movies like this don't do that. And I'm not trying to discourage Kevin Grievous from ever directing again. I just think he has a lot to learn. And again, it's not that this film looks cheap whenever it's like cinematography wise. The cinematography isn't the problem. There are some issues with editing or like editing flourishes that don't really work that well. There's a bit where Alain, his character, I think his character's name's Garen. Yeah, Marcus Garen. He like has a duel with this random Asian woman that comes up, and I don't know who the fuck she's supposed to be. I guess she's supposed to be a friend of Dracos, but after it, like the camera, like there's like an in not in camera zoom, an in editing zoom that looks really unnatural, where it zooms in on her face slowly, and it's like this just looks kind of cheap. But for the most part, things are shot well. The action scenes could be edited a bit more, edited a bit less, or a bit better, because there's a lot of cutting, and I'm like, a lot of these people are actual fighters and actually have some like martial arts background, so you shouldn't need to cut like that. You should be able to show a lot of wide shots, but no. But yeah, this film just isn't much. If you see it cheap, maybe rent it, maybe you'll like it, but for me, it just didn't do that much. Cool premise, just wish more was done with it. But yeah, that was my review of King of Killers. If you've seen the film, let me know what you thought in the comments. If there's anything you want me to take a look at, let me know about that too. And Movie Review Next Door, out.